All right, so this is a bit of a test for me. Nighttime broadcast, knowing that my lighting system's just not great here. It's just, I don't have the right setup for nighttime
All right,
recording
so this is
or
a bit of a
streaming. Oh,
test for me.
whoops, there you go. There's the Bluetooth speaker that was connected. Let me turn that off. That should solve that. At any rate, I'm sitting here testing this because I want to see what the quality is going to look like as a recording. That's partly why I'm doing it. Of course, I wanted to come on and say happy holidays to all of you. Whatever it is you're celebrating, I hope it's a good one. And this little stream here will give me an idea of whether I can tolerate the quality, knowing that it's just sort of is what it is for the moment. I guess a backdrop will help a little bit when I have that up. Give it a little bit of a streamlined look and might help the lighting a little bit. Had to replace the microphone on the last class that I did. The mic was going out. It was terrible. The recording, I hear all this static going on. I'm like, no, this is not good. So I replaced the mic with my backup mic that I had. Hello, if you're tuning in, I'm going to jump over to my thing. Hey, Jawan, what's going on, man? So this is really just a simple test for me to kind of see what this is going to look like if I decide to do some nighttime classes and or streaming on YouTube. I think for 2023, I want to get into doing some offerings that are in the evening. I never do that. I typically reserve that time for sort of creative brainstorming and winding down, whatever it is I want to do. I try to really protect the evening hours. So I normally am not offering anything in the evening. I usually only offer two, typically two classes or summit or combination of a class and a summit per month, and they usually fall on a Saturday or sometimes a Sunday. And that's all I've ever done. I think I did a Friday night class once, long time ago. So if you're already checking out my classes and you would like to see this option of having the ability to join an evening class, which would probably not be on a weekend, that's the thing. That's the thing. So like, I would want to offer that like at a I don't know, like a Thursday night class or something. Just throwing that out there, but it could be whatever. So if you're taking my classes or have taken a class or thinking about doing a harmonica class in 2023, check out these Zoom classes. I have a sale going on for the rest of the year. So if you want to grab a recording of a class that I've already offered, it's 25% off. All you need to do is use the coupon code holiday25 to get 25% off. You put that in at checkout. So I've offered a bunch of classes over the last few years. Many of you know this, but some of you may not know that. And these classes were all recorded through Zoom. And the recordings, for the most part, are pretty high quality, a little better looking than this, a different camera and a different, obviously, it's daylight coming in, which helps the video. But you can see the quality of the audio would be similar to streaming through probably what you're hearing here on YouTube, maybe. And these classes center around song studies, like Little Walter, James Cotton, Junior Wells, Billy Branch, you name it. I mean, Sonny Boy, the list goes on and on. But also technique related classes that kind of help you work on hone in your technique as you're really working on not only trying to build technique and skill, but integrate it. And a little bit of scale work, etc. How about private lessons? I do offer private lessons. If anybody's interested in connecting with me for a private lesson, that's also something I do through Zoom. You can do that. Let's just say reach out to me at info@harmonica123.com and use in the subject line harmonica lesson. That'll get my attention. So when the inbox is full, I see that and I can jump and try to respond quickly and let you know what the scoop is. My lessons typically run 50 minutes long, and you can record them through Zoom as well to your laptop or your desktop computer. It's kind of cool. Right on. Thanks, Juwan. I appreciate that feedback. And I've done a bunch of cool classes on sort of like abstract stuff like pattern recognition or things that are outside of just working on straight technique or learning songs. Blending technique was one of the classes. Let's talk about Happy Birthday for a minute. I got this idea. This has been rolling through my head. For years and years, this bluesy version of Happy Birthday, I've got a G harmonica. I'd always play this. All right, so that way you can incorporate some of the bending. And for many years, I was like, oh, two draw, that's just second position. When really what you're doing is playing the bottom end of first position. It's no different than playing it. It's right there up top, same exact position. So for years I was like, oh, that's second position, blah, blah, blah. And then I started messing around with by ear just the other day going, I don't know if I remember it now. Oh, the half step bend on the two. So again, it'd be like starting on one draw. And I'll explain where I'm going with this in a minute, but basically it comes down to this thing that the gist of what I'm trying to say is that's second position, even though you're starting on a one draw. Now, which one's cooler to play it like in first position on the bottom or in second position? That's what I'm wondering. What do you guys think? It's an important one. Everyone should know Happy Birthday. Again, I was always playing it in that first position, bottom, not even the middle register stuff, just the bottom with the bends. Just a thought. So I hope to connect with a bunch of you in 2023. How's the mic sounding? This is the mic that I use for my classes. Let me show you what I'm using here. A little backup Yeti Nano. Now, obviously, I could hook up a microphone through an interface, like an audio interface, and use just like a standard microphone. But currently, this would be a disaster taking up space to do something like that. So typically, the recordings come out just fine with this type of microphone, this USB mic. Yeah, you like both of them, huh? I really like the half step bend on that. And you get the full step bend again on that in second. So learn yourself a Happy Birthday. If you don't know how to play this yet, get that down. Learn it by ear. Just come back to this video if you need to and play it by ear. There's no better teacher than your ear. So if you're willing to take the time to just sit down and try to find it by ear versus looking for tablature, which is what a lot of people do, it will save you time in the long run for the recall process. People that only learn with tablature in front of them, if that were the only method, you're referring to it until you don't have to. So you're just staring at it. But if you're doing it all by ear, you're integrating the visualization process, at least I am, of seeing these patterns that I'm working on. Jeez, that thing, now it's like cooking. Chill. How low can I go with this before it's not enough light? So yeah, at any rate, learn some of this by ear. And if you're going to take the time to learn it on the bottom of the harmonica, go ahead and learn it in the next octave where, it's pretty easy, except for that second position because you need the 5 overblow. So I take that back. there's the advantage of the both octaves. Learning it in first position, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But in second position, you got overblow to contend with. So play it on the bottom, which is fine, right? I mean, sounds great that way. Let's talk about blues for a minute before I run. Thinking about this new year and some of the things that I think have come up for me as a teacher, as a player, kind of center around this idea of slowing down. That's the theme. That's the theme for me as a teacher. That's the theme for what I see in my students, what they need to do to progress to the next level so that they're not, what's the word? Going quickly over the parts that are the most important to slow down. Like when you're working on a melody and you're trying to get these bends to come out, but you're just really trying to get through the melody no matter how the bend sounds, versus slowing down the process and getting that bend to cooperate to where it sounds just the way you want it. And for me as a teacher, I think it means just slowing down, taking a minute to counteract my ADD and just slow down a little bit. As I'm teaching, slow down what I'm playing so you guys can repeat it like this. That's a G harp. What's cool is that if you learn something very slowly, you will have a great version of it fast, versus the person who kind of put it together in a sloppy manner. It sounds sloppy when they speed it up. Worse. So take your time. Here's a goal for some of you that are still in your first few years of playing, or maybe a year longer than that, but you need something to focus on. Work on your independent playing. What do you do in the world of blues harp besides riff? So chugging and rhythms and all this stuff, and figuring out a way to really implement at least like 12-bar blues or something where you're communicating directly to the listener, and you can use that to integrate that and play with other musicians as well. Because you can follow that. You can hear that and go, I can tell where he's at if you're familiar with, let's say 12-bar blues. So learn how to do something like that. There's a million ways to do that. Once you learn how to do one version very well, I would predict that it would be much easier for you to get those other versions or discover new ways to outline 12-bar blues. All that being 12 bars, but each pass at the 12 bar changing it up. Well, so you're thinking bass lines and chugs, you start mixing all this stuff. If that's your thing, there's a class that I've offered called Front Porch and Back Porch Blues Harp. That's the way to go. Grab it while it's 25% off. I'll link it in the description because it's working on that. The other one would be what did I call it? Blending technique, I think. Integrating technique into your playing. Because you need that so you're not just stuck in the single note zone. Nothing wrong with learning some of that, first, but then you're moving on and you're like, what else can I really do beyond the bass lines and single note oriented things. And then there's just chording and texture, all these layers you can bring in. Really using your dirty notes and using your hands and figure out the blending of all these different techniques so that you're not forgetting to use them to express yourself. And I really believe, though, if you master one, you just figure out how to get to something else that's creative without thinking about it. You just start to fall into this like, oh, okay, you know, if I can do that, you start to play around with the timing a little or adjust a note. Like this is reminiscent of Sunny Boy kind of vibe, but I'm not trying to play it because I never really learned that exact thing note for note right there that I'm trying to feed off of, which is good because if I learned it note for note, I'd just be doing the Sunny Boy thing, you know, paying homage. And that's cool. I love when people post that stuff. And I do a little bit of that, but not very much. I just learned enough to sort of get the essence or the spirit of it. But all this is still just going for that 12-bar outline stuff. So make that if you need something to focus on, let that be one thing you commit to for 2023. I think it's important because when I was learning harp, a lot of people would be like, "Hey man, play me something." Play me something, man. And I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know what to play you." And I just try to play a riff, and then that was it. I was done. Too embarrassed to get it out there. Once I learned how to do some of this stuff I'm showing you, it became much easier to present something on the spot. I'll just play one of these things I've been messing with. Often it was that. And so on. You start to feed off of that and change that up. So it builds confidence. If you're trying to learn blues harp, you need something that you can just, it's like having something to ride. Find the rails that you can ride so that you can turn your brain off and just kind of coast for a minute. Because if you memorize, like, let's say that walking bass line, then once you really got it, you're going to find variations of that bass line, or just learn how to break it and just kind of improvise your riffs around that. But you're feeding off the line, though, really. Something like that. That's a good example right there, because you're using the exact notes to start that line, but kind of depart and alter it. There's some stuff to think about. Hello, everybody that is tuning in. I see you. Well, I see a number that says how many of you are hanging out with me, and I appreciate you being here. I'm going to sign off. This has been a broadcast, an emergency test from the emergency harmonica system, something like that. It's been a broadcast to test this lighting is what this is. Could you stand me teaching a class with this lighting but a good backdrop so you're not staring at a dark background? Could it work, or do I need to upgrade and get like a mega lighting system that will blind me as I teach you? Is this live? Yes, this is live. This is live. I'm here. This is really me. All right, y'all. Just now seeing some of the comments that I had missed. This is a G harp. That's what I'm holding here, a G harp. Hey, man. Well, I will come back even if I take off. Yeah, I know the lighting's not great, so you think it's fine though, but it's definitely not great. I understand that it could use some serious upgrading. I also am not using the right camera. What will happen if I switch midstream? What will happen? Let's try it and see what it does. Should I do this? Should I experiment live? Why not? I'm always so worried about that kind of stuff. I gotta stop worrying about stuff. 2023 is the year of not worrying. Here we go. There it is, dark as can be. But I can change that because with this camera, I have a way to image adjust. See what I'm saying? That's better, huh? It's a better quality. How bright would you want it? I got contrast I can play with. Something like that. So you get the idea. That's a lot better. I should have done that sooner. All right, you guys. I don't know, unless somebody's got a real interesting question you want to I'll tell you what, I'll hang out for another minute. If somebody's got something really interesting to throw at me in the chat that gets my brain going, I'm totally in for chatting a little bit longer. Yeah, it's a higher res camera for sure. It should be able to live stream, if not in 1080. It should be able to live stream in 1080. That's what it should be. All right. And also use the chat. Use this chat as a way to stir up everyone's imagination and creativity as to what you might be working on for your own harmonica goals in 2023. I'm not saying you have to write goals. I'm not always the biggest goal setter, but I think at least having an idea of where you want to put your attention is a good way to start, because it's real. This instrument was the biggest distraction for me for the first couple of years. All I did was float from one thing to the next, just pure experimentation, and it was great because that's what really got me hooked, was learning a little bit of this and that and seeing the possibilities of what I could be doing when I really got this thing under control. So I was totally invested from the beginning, and but having a little bit of a focus, boy, did that make a difference. Stick with something for a minute, you know? What can I practice to do better? That is a pretty good question. Well, I think it depends on what your goal is for the instrument. But if I were to assume that if your goal were to be a better all-around blues harmonica player, since this channel focuses on blues harmonica, I would say that something to consider is working on getting your sound to come out of the harmonica the way that you hear it in your head. That's a tough goal. That's a tough practice point. But working on your tone, just trying to get the sound that you have in here. Hopefully you've got sound from reference of all the great players that you've been listening to. And if not, that's step one, is start listening to more good, influences, musical influences. But then, work on getting your sound. And then work on, obviously, break down your practice sessions. Think about broad categories like technique, theory, if you love to think about theory, and that's a good way for you to process information. That's an umbrella that you would examine. And song studies, that's how I break it up. Yeah. Hey, what's up? Herb, what's going on, buddy? Last time I saw you was in Florida, in front of the music store. You had a present for me in the parking lot, if I recall correctly. Um, Counting in the tune and playing, then passing it off to another guy to solo. Yeah, that could be right there. That's kind of cool. What else we got? Scales are a good thing to practice. Somebody wrote scales. That would be under your theory practice. But, not just theory and stuff like that, but pattern recognition and sort of. So here's something cool that came up in the summit with Charlie Musselwhite. I want to mention again, I got a sale on my website before I forget to mention that. I said it once earlier. Holiday 25 is the coupon code that you can use get 25% off of any of my classes until the end of December. So if you want to stock up and get your harmonica game off to a good start for January, check that out. I'll put some links and information in the video description later. So Charlie, that's what I was saying. One thing that came out of the summit that he said that was really cool, Charlie Musselwhite said, he was hip to the fact from like Big Walter Horton that he needed to learn his patterns. That was like, phew, yes. It was confirmation for me because I think in that manner. When I play, I'm watching patterns emerge. And I think he could relate. He really kind of was implying not just the basic pattern of a scale, which is a pattern of notes, but also the patterns that are these classic lines and vocabulary of blues harmonica, certain things that always come up. You think about these certain riffs or phrases, and they have a pattern, a visual pattern of how they lay out on the harmonica. If you pay attention to the pattern, you memorize the pattern, you're in really good shape. So that was kind of cool. Yes, I agree with you, Juwan. Thank you. Oh, you drove through Wyoming yesterday. Man, I should put this over here so I can see what the hell. Oh, look I got tools for this, you guys. Bought this doohickey right here. Look at that. Now I can geek out and have this up on the thing. Let me see what's going on here. Well, at least I don't have to hold it. It's kind of annoying as hell, to be honest, to have that in the shot. When you're ADD, everything stands out and drives you bananas. I'll tell you that. I'm not doing that. You can't do that. Raise your hand if you got ADD. If you got ADD, put it in the comments. You understand what I'm saying. You drove through Cheyenne. They had a record temperature drop. Oh, yeah, from 40 to 10. That's what was going on here in Colorado. I swear to God, it was 49 degrees or 50. I think it was 49. I was like, this feels great. Be in a t-shirt and walk around. And all of a sudden the wind went bananas for like, I don't know, a couple hours. And after that hour or two of just insane wind, it went from like 50 degrees down to whatever it was, single digits or teens. It was just ice, bitter cold all of a sudden. Yes. Cool. Hank says telling something through the harmonica. That's a great goal. Like really, to me, that kind of implies telling something true through the harmonica, or maybe you just mean through the harmonica, but like really saying something with your instrument, which is like kind of what we were talking about earlier. Late as always. It seems like right as I'm ready to like, well, see you guys later, people start tuning in, and that's, I guess you got to stick on a live stream for a minute sometimes. Thanks, Herb. I see that. What's the best way to apply your classes to my playing? Thanks for the question. Take one idea, work on it, then move on to the next idea. Once I have down an idea, or first idea down rather. Well, thanks for the question. Let me take a minute and answer that. It's a really good question. Since I have, the way I offer classes is all over the map, right? Whatever is truly inspiring me is what I don't schedule my year or months ahead. I stay in the moment, and what's inspiring me, I follow that and I build a class around that. Often it's something that I wanted to thoroughly learn myself. Let's say a song study. There's lots of song studies. So here's to answer your question. How could you best take advantage of them is think about the goal and create a little, like, pen and paper for a minute, sit down with it and think about it. Like, what are the biggest goals you have, and line up some of that with notes underneath that explain what you're going to need to do to get there. And that'll tell you which classes to focus on. So it could be as simple as I want to get better at playing scales. Okay, I have a class on scales. You could buy that and work on it. But I think that your idea of kind of getting a class down before moving on is a good idea. If you have a way to interlink the classes, that would be the other idea. For example, pattern recognition, gem and scales class, and there's one other, blending technique. Now you've got these kind of conceptual and things that are not really about necessarily like breaking down technique or learning songs. Those are great things to work into every practice session, little bits and pieces of it. And then again, when you work on creating a practice session, I don't know what you guys do. Some people probably just sit down and play. They're just, the simplest way to practice, they sit down and just jam. Put on a backing track, or they just play. Just whatever. That's practice for some people, I think. Dang, I hate this. For other folks, I think it's important that for them to feel like they got a plan. A little more defined plan to keep them on track so they're actually staying focused on what they're doing. So that means if somebody's going to talk about that kind of practice session, you have the main columns of categories. Technique. I'm going to work on bending for 10 minutes. Then I'm going to have these exercises that I do. Next column, theory. I've got a scale that I want to really get better at. It's the pentatonic. You play around with the scale. There's a million ways to practice that. And you have these classes that help you work on your scales, work on your patterns, work on your bending. I have a whole bending clinic, so you would take the class and use that as part of your practice. If the class is an hour or an hour and 30 minutes sometimes, an hour and 10, 20, you don't need to watch the whole class to practice. You can go to a spot in the class and just figure out where you want to be and take that exercise and do it the way that works for you. Write it out on a piece of paper or just follow the video. And it comes with PDF of notes that you can print out. If you want a little structure, check out the classes. I think there's not really a wrong way to do it is the answer. I'm so sorry that I don't read French. I'm sorry. Maybe that's asking me how long I've been playing harmonica? I don't know if that's what that says, but if anybody's wondering how long I've been playing this thing, it's like 30 years almost. Not quite. Maybe like 28 years or something. Yeah, the pattern thing came up in a ukulele class I'm taking. Learn the patterns up and down. Again, it could be your scales, or it could just be, cool patterns. Combination of scales, major then pentatonic. You can create your own little riffs that become movements. I have these looping patterns that I play, looping ideas, looping riffs. And I think I've offered classes like looping blues riffs and things. Those are cool. They're patterns. They're not exactly necessarily a riff, but by learning them, you can deconstruct them and make music out of that, improvise from that. I didn't sit down with a piano or a guitar to learn the harmonica note names. To this day, I haven't really memorized every note. Often know sometimes by default, or not by default, through just over the years of constantly thinking about harmonica, but I don't learn like that. I did know where I was, and I practiced making sure that when I played, I knew where I was. If somebody tapped me on the shoulder while I'm in the heat of the moment, I knew where I was. I'm on a 4 bend, I'm lifting it up, I'm warbling 3/4, and I think you guys really, if you can't do that today, make that a priority. You need to know where you are. I feel like, yeah, you can feel your way around, but so that means you kind of have a sense for where the notes are and where you're going. But you should know exactly where you are so you can replicate things easily and consistently. Ooh, that's good. Make them feel you, not just hear you. Jawan, I agree with that, man. If you guys don't know Jawan Bailey, go check out his YouTube. Everybody click on that before you go and write that name down. Jawan Bailey. You're going to be hearing about Jawan. He is a up and coming player. He's a new player. A couple years in or so, you can let us know, Jawan. But man, you got a sound. You got that thing. So now you have a responsibility to develop that thing you got. It's real special. My pleasure, Alan. Happy to share the insight with you guys. Diatonic or chromatic, or maybe you're asking on chromatic. I do play a little bit of chromatic, mainly just third position, but after listening to Charlie Musselwhite and his exploration of many other positions, it's clear to me that there's lots you can do on the chromatic outside of just thinking about third, which most blues players do. But if you mean diatonic, yeah, that must be what you mean, diatonic or chromatic. Uh-huh. A cover band. We're not playing blues, but rock and country. I've played live before, but never with a band. What should I remind myself? Here's a couple quick tips. I'll give you a couple quick things. So it doesn't matter that you're going to be not playing blues. Rock and country, that's fine. Have all your equipment with you, number one. Whatever you have, as many harmonicas, amplifiers, microphones, bring it all. Don't leave anything behind if you have a car somewhere it's easy to place all this. You never know what you're going to need at the gig or what you may decide you want. Number two, if you can get a little background about what keys they're going to be playing, what songs, that might really help you. If you're not going to go that route, have big ears. Listen more than you play. They will love that. Then people are going to be waiting for that harmonica to come in. But if you're playing constantly on top of the vocals, or even if you're good at playing around the vocals, but you just don't stop playing the whole time, it gets old. You guys got to everyone will agree with that, I would say. Let it breathe. And be a good listener. Feed off of the energy of the band. Keep it simple when you don't know what to do. And you don't have to do anything. So it's like if you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Same kind of advice. Man, that's a deep question. Leroy, what's the best technique for practicing the trained style blues? Listening to Sonny, Terry, D. Ford, Bailey, and some of the guys that really are known for creating some of these great chugs and finding your own versions of it, but getting used to playing just two chords and seeing what you can do. Going, there's a G harp still. Some playing around with enunciations in and out, or just playing around with something simple just off the chords, but listening to the masters and how they did it. Go check out Joe Falisco and Paul Lamb. These guys are still alive, paying tribute to Sonny Terry and other great pre-war players, really, before that were just, I can't think of all those great pre-war names, but Will Shade's name came up when Charlie was at the summit. I don't know how old or what year Will Shade was born, but that goes pretty far back. But the best technique are getting the chords, to answer your question. Just, I'm saying tuck-a-toodle to get that on the inhale. Tucka, and then tootle. That was the first thing anybody ever taught me on chords. J.P. Allen, thank you. I never developed it to speed, just to be honest. But he taught it to me, and it stuck with me that it's a good articulation to practice for the tongue. Tucka and tootle. The tootle's long. Don't let it go. Let it really ring out for a minute. Let your breath kind of fall in a rhythm where you can really relax before you try to get it sped up. I like this. Because you can sit on just the chord, or you can bring in the note. You got to figure that out. That would be a long answer. That's a good plan. Actually, it says actually pick it up and make some noise instead of just looking at it. Thanks, One Mountain Cat One. That's definitely that's a good plan right there. So I see all the Merry Christmases. Thank you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas holiday, or whatever it is you are going to do. If you don't celebrate Christmas, enjoy the new year, whatever it is. Get some downtime or some family time. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Don't forget, there's a sale at Harmonica 123. The coupon code you want to use is Holiday25. I'll update the video description of this perhaps tonight, maybe with some of my favorite classes from the website, so you can just click on them and just go right to them and learn more about them. And if you decide to check them out, you can use that coupon code. That's what I got tonight. See you guys.